All right, let's get right into it. If you're studying for the Solution Architect exam, you know security is a huge deal. So imagine you've just rolled out this massive application. We're talking tons of EC2 instances, containers, Lambda functions, the whole shebang. How in the world do you keep an eye on all of it? How do you make sure it's all secure? Well, that's exactly the problem we're solving today with Amazon Inspector. Honestly, it's a total game changer, and you absolutely need to know it for the exam. So think about this for a second. In a cloud environment, things are always changing, right? New instances pop up, containers are spun down, code gets deployed. It's just constant motion. Trying to secure that is like, I don't know, trying to guard a sandcastle on a super busy beach where the tide is always coming in. It's impossible to do manually. That's the core problem, and it's why a tool that can continuously and automatically find vulnerabilities is no longer a nice to have. It's essential. Okay, first things first, a really important heads up, especially for the exam. You might see something called Inspector Classic floating around in older documentation. Just ignore it. Seriously, it's the old way, it's being deprecated. What we care about, what the exam cares about, is the new Amazon Inspector. This is the one that's automated, that scans everything from EC2 to Lambda and does it all the time. It's a completely different beast, and it's the only one you need to know. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll cover the basics. What even is Amazon Inspector? Then we'll get into the cool stuff, its core scanning capabilities. After that, we'll talk about how it uses intelligent scoring to help you prioritize. Then we'll look at how it integrates with everything else, which is super important. And finally, we'll see how it fits into the whole DevSecOps picture. All right, section 1. So what exactly is Amazon Inspector? Let's get a solid definition down. Okay, so at its core, you can think of Amazon Inspector as your automated vulnerability detective. The keyword there is automated. You don't have to go in and manually tell it, hey, go scan this thing. Nope, it automatically discovers all your workloads. We're talking EC2 instances, your container images in ECR, and even your Lambda functions. And once it finds them, it just continually scans them. It's looking for two main things: software vulnerabilities, like a flaw in a library you're using, and any unintended network exposure. That second one is huge, like accidentally leaving a port open to the world. And the best part, it's built from the ground up for the chaos of a dynamic cloud environment. Okay, so we know Inspector is this awesome automated vulnerability service, but what does it actually scan? What does it protect? This next part is super important, especially for the exam, because we're going to get into its core scanning capabilities. This is where the magic really happens. When it comes to EC2, Inspector gives you two ways to play, and you'll definitely want to know the difference. First, you've got agent-based scanning. This is the deep dive approach. It uses the SSM agent that's probably already on your instances. Think of it like having a security expert living inside your server, constantly checking the software packages, watching for anything sketchy. It's continuous and really thorough. Then you've got the agentless option. This is pretty cool. It works by taking temporary snapshots of your EBS volumes and scanning those. It's like sending in a forensics team to analyze a copy of your hard drive without ever stepping foot inside the room. This is perfect for when you can't install the SSM agent, or maybe you just need a quick, on-demand check of a whole bunch of machines. Now, let's talk containers, because what Inspector does here is honestly brilliant. You push a container image to ECR, right? Inspector scans it, but that's just the start. It then continuously rescans that image, because new vulnerabilities are discovered all the time. But here's the absolute game changer. Let's say it finds a new vulnerability in an image. Inspector doesn't just tell you the image is bad. It tells you, hey, that bad image is currently running in these 50 pods in your ECAS cluster. It gives you that runtime context. You immediately know which running workloads are affected, which is just incredibly powerful for prioritizing what to fix first. Okay, you've probably heard the term shift-left security. The whole idea is simple. Find and fix problems as early as possible. It's way cheaper to fix a faulty part on the assembly line than to recall a million cars, right? Same thing with code. And this is where Inspector really helps you shift left. It can scan your application source code before it's even built. It scans all those third-party open-source libraries you're using. It even scans your infrastructure as code templates, your CloudFormation and Terraform for misconfigurations. And it does this right inside the developer's workflow, like in a GitHub pull request. So developers get instant feedback, and security issues get squashed before they ever make it to production. And it doesn't stop at containers and EC2. For your Lambda functions, Inspector has you covered from two different angles. First, there's the standard scan. This looks at all the dependencies and packages your Lambda function uses, basically all the code you didn't write. But then there's the Lambda code scan, and this is where it gets really powerful. It actually analyzes the custom application code you wrote inside that function, looking for things like injection vulnerabilities. So it's checking both the foundation and the house you built on top of it. It's a really comprehensive approach for serverless. Okay, so Inspector is amazing at finding stuff. That's its job. But this leads to a new problem, right? You get this huge list of potential vulnerabilities, and now what? You can't fix everything at once. The real challenge is separating the signal from the noise, figuring out what actually matters. And this is where Inspector's intelligent scoring and prioritization come into play. So anytime Inspector finds a potential issue, it creates what's called a finding. Now, a finding isn't just a simple, hey, this is broken, alert. It's more like a full-blown incident report. It gives you a detailed description of the vulnerability, tells you exactly which resource is affected, and, this is key, it gives you recommendations on how to remediate. Every finding gets a baseline score from the CVSS, which is the industry standard. This gives you a quick idea of the severity, critical, high, medium, low. It tells you how bad a vulnerability could be in theory. But here's the thing. That's just the starting point. Because what makes Inspector so smart is that it doesn't stop there. It creates its own special Inspector risk score, and this score is tailored specifically to your cloud environment. And this is just so clever. The Inspector risk score takes that generic CVSS score and then adjusts it based on what's actually happening in your environment. The example here is perfect. Let's say you have a critical vulnerability that can be exploited over the network. But the EC2 instance that has this vulnerability isn't connected to the internet at all. It has no public IP, it's in a private subnet, the security group is locked down. So is that vulnerability really critical for you? No way. Inspector gets that. It'll lower the risk score way down so your team isn't wasting time chasing ghosts. You get to focus on the things that are a real, actual threat. This context-aware scoring is, frankly, a game changer. All right, let's switch gears and talk about integration. Because in the world of AWS, no service is an island. And for the Solutions Architect exam, you have got to know how services work together. A security tool that can't talk to anything else is pretty much useless. An Inspector is a fantastic team player. First up, it integrates beautifully with AWS organizations. This means you can manage Inspector across all of your accounts from one single place. You flip a switch, and it's on for your whole org. So simple. Next, it sends all of its findings to AWS Security Hub. This is huge for visibility, because now your Inspector findings are sitting right alongside alerts from GuardDuty, Macy, and all your other security tools in one dashboard. And maybe most powerfully, it integrates with Amazon EventBridge. This is where detection turns into action. Every single finding from Inspector becomes an event that you can use to kick off, well, anything you can dream of. So let's walk through a classic automation pattern that you absolutely have to know for the exam. It goes like this. Step 1, Inspector finds a critical vulnerability on an EC2 instance. Okay, what happens next? Step 2, that finding immediately triggers a rule in EventBridge. Step 3, EventBridge invokes a Lambda function that you've written. Step 4, your Lambda function is smart. It calls the systems manager run command. And finally, step 5, SSM run command executes a script that patches the vulnerable software on that EC2 instance. Boom, done. From detection to remediation, all automated, probably happened in seconds, and no one had to get paged at 3 a.m. That is the power of this ecosystem. Okay, for our last section, let's kind of zoom out and look at the big picture. When you put all of these pieces together, the automated scanning, the context-aware scoring, the deep integrations, you realize that Inspector is way more than just a security tool. It's really a foundational platform for building a true DevSecOps culture. I mean, think about the whole life cycle. Inspector is there from the very beginning, scanning a developer's code all the way to the very end, watching over that code running in production. It covers that full software supply chain. And since it gives you SAST, SCA, and IAC scanning right out of the box in AWS, you don't need to bolt on a bunch of third-party tools. It simplifies things a ton. Oh, and one more thing, it can generate a software bill of materials, an SBM. This is basically a list of all the ingredients in your software. And for a lot of compliance and auditing, this is quickly becoming something you absolutely have to have. So let's wrap up with a final thought to chew on. As services like Inspector get better and better at automating the grunt work, the finding, the patching, what does that mean for the role of a cloud security engineer? Well, the job is changing. It's becoming less about being a reactive firefighter and more about being a proactive architect. You're not just patching servers, you're building these automated remediation pipelines. You're fine-tuning the risk scores. You're using all this saved time to hunt for much bigger, more complex threats. It really is an exciting time to be in this field, building secure systems in the cloud.